Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the 3-0 Take, where we talk all things Major League Baseball. Here's Kyle Corwin and Nate Reyes. It all starts right now.
Welcome back to the 3-0 Take, presented by SeatGeek. This is episode 421. I'll be your host, Kyle Corwin, and I'm riding solo again. It's all good. Look, if you're a follower of this podcast, you know Nate is in a very exciting, very busy transition in his life. Just got married this past weekend, so still a lot of business going on there. So had to run it solo again tonight. No big deal. We would have possibly done tomorrow night, but just with some scheduling, logistics, and everything, had to get it out to you guys tonight. So apologize if you're sick of me already. But Nate will be back next week. He has informed me that he will be back next week. So hopefully for episode 422, you'll have the regular crew back, Nate and myself. Before we get started, we got a lot of baseball to talk about. I want to ask that you subscribe to our YouTube. We are quickly approaching our goal of 2,000. We want to have 2,000 by the end of the year. So we're coming up on 1K. So we're making good progress. Would greatly appreciate if you all could subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm putting a lot of content up this season. So would really appreciate if you guys could either check it out and maybe make that your primary method of listening to the podcast moving forward. Or if you're not really big YouTubers, you're like, I'd rather not do the video, I'd rather go audio, just subscribe anyway. It would be a huge help for the old 3-0 Take, your favorite podcast, hopefully your favorite podcast. Let's get into some baseball right off the top here. I usually don't do this, but I want to put a poll out to our listeners. This wasn't even the leading topic of episode 421, but I'm catching some heat on Twitter about this ending to the D-backs game today. I don't know if you saw, but the Yankees and D-backs went to the 11th today, and the D-backs were down to their final out. They're down 5-6. They're at home. Yankees looking to close it out, up 6-5 in the bottom of the 11th. They got 2 outs. D-backs have 2 outs. And they had emptied their bench to the point that they had to send a relief pitcher. I think a relief pitcher, Scott McGough. I think I saw that it was his first AB, his first ever major league, like his first at bat ever as a big league player. The D-backs send him up to the plate with 2 outs, down a run to the Yankees with the bases loaded. That's all they had. I'm not saying that was like their top choice, but that's all they had. With that said, he gets down to 1-2, I believe the count was 1-2. There's like a borderline pitch. It's I saw some people saying it was like 6 inches off the plate. I'll go 6 inches off the plate. I'll give him that. I'll be generous. Doesn't even take the bat off his shoulders. So my question to you is, that was a long-winded way of asking via poll. Where do we stand on that? Like I said, if I hadn't caught heat about this on Twitter, it really wouldn't make a difference to me. But now I'm genuinely curious, wondering if I'm the crazy one here. What Scott McGough, a pitcher, up to plate, team's down 1, bottom of the 11th, bases loaded, 1-2 count, borderline pitch. Am I crazy to say that you got to swing on anything close? Like, has baseball evolved to the point, past the point of that being a philosophy, that being an approach? Because that's how we were always taught. And I'm pretty sure that's how the majority of a lot of these guys were taught. And I know Scott McGough is a pitcher, but I'm sure he hit at one point in his life playing baseball. So I know he knows this. It's borderline pitch. Am I crazy? Go watch the video. Tell me what you think. Get back to me. Hit me up on via DM or something. Let me know, because this is bothering me more than it should, I will admit. But I really got to know where you guys are at with this. Anyway, glad we got that out of the way. Let's get into the main topics of discussion for tonight. Ronel Blanco, the first no-hitter of the 2024 season. Can I put it up to another poll? Can I propose another poll? How many of you heard about this, like, as it was happening? How many of you heard about this after the fact? Because I got to say, I know it's early in the season. I know we're, 6 games into the season? 6, 7-ish? I know it's early. But in recent memory, this is one of the most under-the-radar no-hitters that I can remember. I mean, I got the notification that said he was through a no. I don't even think the people at the game, or the people that were responsible for putting these notifications out, because obviously I'm not tuned into the Astros Jays game on a random what was it? Monday night. So I have to rely on some of these updates to know when to tune in to things like this. And they sent the update, and it said, Ronel Blanco, no hitter through 8. I flipped the game on. Vladdy Jr. is flaring a ball to second base to end the game. So I barely caught the end of it. Granted, I had to go back and watch the condensed version of the game just so I knew what I'd be talking about, as I knew this would be a topic on the podcast. But like I said, I don't even think the people that were at the game or the people responsible for keeping people updated on things like this, when no-hitter warnings are sent out, I don't even know if they were awake for this or aware that it was going on. So, I mean, we're going to talk about it. A no-hitter's a no-hitter. I mean, props to Ronel. He's got an awesome story that I think needs to be talked about, but I kind of feel bad for the guy, you know? I mean, talk about a whirlwind of events for this guy, and I don't feel like didn't even get the discussion or the attention that he deserves for this achievement. But I mentioned the story that he has, or that he brought into the game with him. I in this article that I read, I think it was ESPN's article, it said it started off, in a span of 7 days, the Houston right-hander welcomed a new daughter, made his first opening day roster, and then threw the first no-hitter in the major leagues this season. So within 7 days, welcomed a new daughter, made the roster, threw a no-hitter. I mean, that's an incredible story. And I think someone, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I read somewhere that he, and forgive me not having the full background on this guy, because as you can see, very kind of out there story. This isn't a household name. But I think I read that he signed for like $5,000 as some like international signing. I'm not sure the details on that. Someone can, like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw that he signed for like $5,000. In addition to a lot of the other guys that the Astros have brought on board over the last, call it 5-10 years, a lot of similar situations where very, very cheap signings, and they turn out to be, you know, they're making their mark in the organization. So if that is true, or even if it was more, but it was still very minimal money, good for him, man. I mean, talk about making the best of an opportunity, making the best of a situation. But yeah, he's 30 years old, didn't play didn't play in the majors rather until he was 28. This is his 8th career start. And as you well know, the Astros rotation is a little bit banged up. So that's part of the reason he really was even in this situation to begin with. So again, goes back to making the best of the opportunity. So props to Ronel for taking advantage of the opportunity you're given. Because as you well know, you hear guys in the league talk about it all the time. The guys that are presented similar opportunities, a lot of them can't take advantage of it because the pressure gets to them, or they get in their own head, or they catch themselves not ready, the team comes to them, says, "Hey, now's your shot, kid," and they're caught with their hands down their pants, and it's a tough spot to be in. And you don't really hear about those stories because they kind of fizzle out. Maybe a once promising prospect just didn't take advantage of the opportunity, or even a guy like this where it's like, hey, in a normal world, in a regular world, you might not get this opportunity, but given circumstances related to injuries or personnel issues, whatever it may be, a guy got suspended and we got to call you up. So whatever it may be, the guys that make the most of those opportunities are the stories that you hear about. And Ronel Blanco is certainly one of those names. So again, I just want to express my respect to Ronel for doing that, because that's a tough spot to be in for a let's call it like it is, a very successful franchise over the last decade. Regardless how you feel about the Astros, to be able to come up and do this, I tip my cap to him. Again, this was Monday night in the Astros 10-0 win against the Blue Jays. Blue Jays looked absolutely flat, and not to take anything away from Blanco, he had his stuff working, and I specifically wanted to address the changeup usage. He had that thing on a string all night, and I believe most, if not all, like 90 to even 100% of the strikeouts that he had. I think he had 7 Ks. I believe it was 7. I think were exclusively via the changeup. He had the Jays looking silly. Absolutely silly. It was nothing but soft contact all night. The only real hard contact that I think he saw at any point during that night was right at guys. So, you know how that stuff goes. Luck tends to be on your side in situations like that. And there wasn't even really any close play that put him in a hairy situation. I think the only play that was even remotely a little scary was the second out in the 8th, or in the 9th rather. I think it was a ground ball to a hard ground ball to Jose Abreu, laid out, made the play. Not to take anything away from Abreu, but I think we can all acknowledge that he's not exactly the most agile these days. So I think any other first baseman, maybe a little younger, maybe a little lighter on their feet, it's not as scary of a play. Maybe it's a little more comfortable. Maybe Ronel could have breathed a little bit easier. But either way, Abreu makes a play for the second out in the 9th. And again, that was really the only close call. I think there was a ball hit maybe to left center that made its way close to the track, but really it was just soft contact and his strike and his changeups via the strikeout. Strikeouts via the changeup. He had him looking foolish all night. It was the 17th no-hitter in team history. And the first, obviously the first of 2024, but the first since Michael Lorenzen when he was with Philly last year, if you recall. I think it was August. But yeah, going back to the changeup, because I don't want that to be lost on this. He had a 90% strike rate with the changeup. That's gross. And to see where he was spotting it up exactly where he wanted it all night. He was spotting it low. He was twisting guys up at the plate. They were swinging out of their shoes the entire night when they weren't rolling over on balls or flailing them to the shallow outfield. So it was just a very, very efficient, very dominant performance. And credit to him too for taking advantage of the opportunity, but recognizing or realizing how early it is in the season, because I'm curious to see what kind of toll this takes on him moving forward, or in the opportunities that he's potentially given. I don't know if this is more of a long-term fit for the rotation while we wait out injuries for the Astros, or what it may be. But if he does have recurring appearances for the Stros. I am curious to see what kind of toll this takes, because an outing, although it was relatively efficient given the circumstances, that's still a tall ask this early in the season to go. I think he was over 100 pitches. I want to say it was like, was it like 110? I might be making that number completely up, but I think we were close to that. But yeah, just very, very impressive outing from Ronel. And like I said right up top, I wish he would have gotten a little more love for it in the moment, because again, I feel like everybody was kind of scrambling, like, whoa, this is happening already. Like this is what's going on. And he closed it out and made history for himself and for the team. So again, props to Ronel. Moving along here, speaking of history, Bryce Harper. Have a night, kid. Have a night. Came into what is today? Today's Wednesday. Came into Tuesday's game 0 for 11, which for all intents and purposes, the grand scheme of things, not that many ABs. But I would venture to say a guy like Bryce, who just loves to hit, to start off the year 0 for 11, that may as well be 0 for 75 for him. Really, I mean, anybody is going to be feeling that right out of the gate. If you're struggling to get to notch that first hit, to record that first knock in the books to start the year. But for him especially, I would imagine that a guy who expects a lot from himself, I'm sure that was weighing on him. And again, I'm sure 0 for 11 felt 10 times that. So to come out and drop 3 tanks, first of all, your first hit of the season is a home run. And then you're like, I got one more in me. And then you come up again and you say, not only do I have a third one in me, let's clear the bases. Bases juiced, grand slam to cap off a a 6 RBI night. I think it was two solo shots in a grand slam. Just a heck of a way to I don't want to say come out of the gate, because we're, like I said, we're 6 or so games into the season, but for him to finally tally that first knock, to do it in quite literally grand style, you gotta love that for him. So they take down the Reds 9-4 Tuesday. The history behind it, though, I need to pull it up just because I don't want to misspeak here. And forgive me, I should have had this pulled up already. But I think he was the first. Was it the first guy since like the freaking 1900, like the year 1900 or something insane, to start 0 for 11 and then hit 3 bombs or something? There was some historical element to it, and I should have written it down when I saw it. That's my bad. But it was a matter of time. And I tweeted out, I said the king is back after like the first one, maybe the second one. And then he goes and hits a third one for a grand slam. I wasn't worried as you can see here on YouTube, big Bryce guy. And I just wasn't worried. I wasn't worried. I knew I was confident that it was only a matter of time that he was going to turn it around. This guy's been in the league too long. I swear it feels like he just got into the league like yesterday, and we were having all these Bryce Harper, Mike Trout conversations, but he's been in the league now for 12 years. Is it really 12? Has it been 12 years already? Where does the time go? My goodness, that makes me feel old. It was 2012, his rookie year, right? He won Rookie of the Year in 2012. My goodness, 12 years. But yeah, he's been in the league too long. He's a hitting nut. I don't know if I'd call him a nerd. I wouldn't call him a hitting nerd because I think he has said on numerous occasions before that he just likes to hit. He just likes to mash baseballs. There was a quote, I think, from like 20 or 21 where he, paraphrasing, but he basically was just like, yeah, I just want to hit baseballs. So for a guy that has done it his whole career, I believe me, I wasn't stressed about an 0 for 11 start. I'm sure Phillies fans were feeling a little uncomfortable with that slow of a start, and I know Braves fans were just eating it up, rightfully so. I mean, if your rival star player is off to a sluggish start, you're gonna kick them while they're down for sure. But came back in a big way. I think I saw. No, that was Mookie. I'm getting milestones mixed up. I thought it was like his 1500th RBI or something. But what's crazy about that Phillies game, I don't even know if the Bryce Harper thing was the craziest part about the game. Did you all hear about Ricardo Pinto? The reliever? I got to give you guys some background here. He hasn't pitched in the big league since 2019. Let me make sure I got this right. He got called up from AAA Lehigh Valley, and the Phillies couldn't get him a flight from Rochester, which I guess is where they were at. And because he couldn't make the flight, he had to drive 8 hours. And the reason he was late, as you would imagine, scrambling to make that trip, Rob Thompson, the manager of the Phillies, said he got stuck in traffic. And so did I see he didn't make it to the 4th inning? He made it. I got to make sure I got this right. He didn't arrive at the ballpark until the 4th inning, and then proceeded to pitch 4 innings and got his first career save. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I saw the first post about this, I thought, who is this Ricardo Pinto guy, and how do you show up in the 4th inning? I had a tweet written out. And I'm not gonna lie, I was gonna bury the guy. I was like, do you know how late you have to be as a Major League Baseball player to show up in the 4th inning? Major League Baseball players show up hours before the game, like hours. Some guys will show up like half a day early. They'll show up for I couldn't even tell you, for like a 7 p.m. game. There are guys that'll show up at like 1:12 even. Got to get their work in. They want to get stretched out. They want to get a little bit of rehab in, whatever it may be. And I'm sitting here reading this, and it said he shows up in the 4th, and I said, homie would have had to have left by like the 2nd inning to show up in the 4th. So how late did he really leave? And then I found out the story, and I go, good for you for even making it during the game. Honestly, I would have probably gotten such road rage that I probably wouldn't have even made it, if I'm being honest. And I would venture to say a lot of you listening probably wouldn't have either, because I would be stressed to the max. If the big club called me and said, hey, no flight, you got to drive, I'm probably not even letting the sentence finish before I'm in my car hitting like 110 on the freeway. And I probably still wouldn't have made it by the 4th. So good. I don't know how you did it, but good for you, Ricardo Pinto. Proud of you, my friend. Speaking of being proud, I'm not proud of the Oakland A's for obvious reasons. They're just a mess right now. They optioned, as I'm sure you've heard by this point, I'm sure you've heard that they optioned. Hold on. My sister-in-law just texted me asking for trivia on the Red Sox, and I admittedly don't I don't know if I know this. I'm way overthinking this, aren't I? I should be ashamed. What did the Red Sox do in 2018 that they had not done since 1946? I'm like way overthinking this. Why am I going straight to the opponent? I probably shouldn't even mention this on here because now I feel like I've exposed myself. Not like that. What did the Red Sox do in 2018 that they had not done it since 1946? Does it have something to do with the win total? I should know this. What is wrong with you? As I'm sitting here wearing a Boston hat, I'm such a fraud. I'm gonna know. I put myself on the spot here, so that's on me. I guarantee you, I'll know it as soon as I get off. It'll come to me. She's at a trivia night. That's tough. That's on me. I shouldn't have even said anything. My bad. But they optioned Esteury Ruiz on Monday. And look, we love conspiracies on this podcast, and the conspiracies are flying with this individual. Now, actually, I should say pair, because they also benched Brent Rooker. Granted, he started 0 for 11 to start the year, so very, very Bryce Harper-esque, if you will. So a little more understandable that they would bench him. But to option your best hitter on the team, at the time, he was hitting 429 with an OPS of hold on. Get my numbers mixed up. Yeah, he was hitting 429, had an OPS of 1.232. So where's the conspiracy come into play, you ask? Not sure if you guys have seen, but both of those names that I mentioned, Ruiz and Rooker, were both spotted at various times. I don't know if it's been every day that they've had them on, but there are pictures circulating of them wearing the last dive bar bracelets to basically show solidarity for solidarity purposes with the fans and the people who are upset about the situation with Las Vegas and relocation and just the way the team has been handled. If you're not familiar with the last dive bar how it pertains to the Oakland A's, look into it. It's a pretty fascinating story. But for them to wear the bracelets that said last dive bar, the conspiracy is that ownership, or I'm guessing ownership, people in the front office, somebody, some power to be, maybe had a little bit of a trickle down message. Word got down to the clubhouse. Hey, we're not going for this. Anybody on this team that plays for this ball club that's going to show public support like that, I don't care how well they're hitting, send them to AAA. It doesn't even make sense if you're gonna option somebody. And apparently the GM, the A's GM, tried to explain that the reason they optioned him to AAA was to make room for Tyler Nevin, who, by the way, is a 200 career hitter. What are we talking about? You're going to option your best hitter to make room for a guy that's hit 200 his career? The Oakland A's are a joke, man. An absolute joke. But again, my whole point there is, if you're going to option somebody, why don't you option the guy that started 0 for 11? And if you're really upset and you're trying to make a point, bench the guy who's hitting 429. They had it backwards. And I don't care about positional depth or team needs. Clearly, you don't know what your team needs if you're sending your best hitter down, hitting 429. I don't understand what's going on with the Oakland A's. And not to mention, I don't know if you guys saw, did you guys see that cheat sheet? Forgive me, I don't know. And honestly, I don't know if many people know this thing with the trivia stressed me out. I need to clear my head of it. I'm not going to be able to let this go until I address this. I'm just going to say I'm recording to let myself off the hook. Sorry, recording a podcast. All right, sorry, we're good. The cheat sheet. It was from the Red Sox series that just wrapped up. I don't like I was saying, I don't know if this is legit. I have every reason to believe that it is, though, because it's the Oakland A's, and it just reeks of Oakland A's management. This guy, I think he found it. I'm guessing Will McNeil. I don't know. I don't know if he found it, but he tweeted out the picture. He said, "So this was found at the Coliseum tonight. Unreal. #athletics." It's a cheat sheet, or I guess you call it a cheat sheet, for the April 2nd game against the Red Sox, and it's broken up into different categories. It says the categories are customer service, product, new jerseys, item of the game, gate closures, and then notes at the bottom. And I won't read you the whole sheet, but I'll just give you some of the highlights if you haven't seen it yet. Under customer service, one of the points says, "I understand." I'm guessing this is for stadium staff. That's my best guess. I don't know the background behind this, but I'm guessing it's for stadium staff or for the ushers or for concession stand people, or like the popcorn guys. I don't know. But under customer service, it says, "I understand the fan base may be upset with the team, but do what we can to make the experience or their experience a positive one." Under product, and this is where the madness was unleashed, where people were really losing their minds when they read this. Under product, it says, "If you see anything that says, quote, rooted in Oakland, it must be taken down immediately." And then it says, try not to highlight products that focuses on the name Oakland. And then there's some things under new jerseys where it says, "Only the white jerseys are the new ones. Please take down your old white jerseys. All the other jerseys can remain as we don't have the new ones in yet," which is a whole nother thing that I'll get to at the end. Apparently teams don't have jerseys right now, which is insane. We're a week plus into the season, and certain teams are missing certain jerseys. Like I said, I'll get into that here shortly. But the notes at the bottom I thought was very strange. It said attendance is 3,500. Their sales goal is $36,000. And then the part that nobody understood, and I think we're all dying to know /meet, is this Drew guy. The last note on the sheet said, "Drew is here all week. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out." Why is all this falling on Drew? And why do we have a cheat sheet like this? What? Are these things just not assumed? Like, why can't you just have a single staff meeting and just says, "Hey, anything that says rooted in Oakland or just anything anti-Oakland, just take it down"? Don't people know at this point? Isn't anybody that's associated with the Oakland A's organization familiar with kind of what's going on here and the issues that are troubling this ball club? I don't understand why this cheat sheet exists or who it's even for, or if it's even real. Who knows? I just thought it was interesting and worth talking about. So yeah, don't know what's going on in Oakland. This isn't the last I'll be talking about Oakland. Still got a note about them and their ballpark situation. But moving right along here, the Giants are parting ways with their once promising option behind the dish, Joey Bart. They DFA'd Joey Bart Sunday and was traded to the Pirates on Tuesday. So the Pirates have acquired Joey Bart, who again was thought by many to be the successor to Buster Posey. He showed a decent amount of promise. They thought that he'd be able to settle in with some time, but it just hasn't panned out the way the team has wanted it to. And what's interesting though is the Pirates, who, as I've already mentioned last episode, off to a great start. Henry Davis is in the mix. They've got Yasmani Grandal. I think I even read two guys that I'm less familiar with, Jason DeLay and Andy Rodriguez, who I believe is on the 60-day, if I read that correctly. Look, I'm usually the type of guy that believes that a change of scenery is always good, and that these guys should be given the benefit of the doubt first. If they don't pan out with a given club, let's just see if they're fortunate enough to where they're not just released from baseball altogether and they have the opportunity to jump ship to another club, get another shot. I'm rarely, I won't say never, but I'm rarely going to just automatically write the guy off again. Like if it just didn't pan out with his previous team, I'm at least going to give him a shot, because getting an opportunity on a new team, we've seen it before, can do wonders for a guy. So, like I said, I'm usually going to give the benefit of the doubt in that regard. I don't know if I get that vibe with Joey Bart, though. I don't know if it's just because I feel like the hype was too much for him, or if they put too high of expectations on him at such a young age to be their successor or like their new franchise catcher. Like to hear that. It's one thing for, let's just say, like a Julio Rodriguez, where he comes up to say like, hey, you're going to be an anchor in the outfield for this franchise for the next decade plus. That's one thing. But to tell a guy who's behind the dish, who, as you very well know, sees the whole field every game, isn't it, regardless how much they contribute offensively, which more times than not is very little, are essential to the success of a team and its pitching staff, and really the entire defensive side of things. Very crucial to put those kinds of expectations on a guy who already has all of that on his plate at such a young age. I don't know if they killed his confidence, or maybe it's just he needs a fresh start. And I say fresh start, he's still a pretty young kid. Maybe the Pirates, where, look, we can say what we want about the Giants, but they're a pretty storied franchise, and the Pirates have had their run in the sun over certain decades. I'm not saying they're not a storied franchise, but the Pirates, as of late, are still, kind of tricking through the rebuild. They're trying to get a little bit of momentum going. They're off to a great start, as I said. Maybe a team like that is a better place to have a go at it. And again, I don't know what this opportunity looks like for him, given that Henry Davis is in the mix. But if they find a way to make it work, then you have, if you're able to tap into that talent, you've got a pretty skilled backstop in your system. And even if you don't keep him around, you can maybe send him elsewhere to a team that maybe could, at that point, use a guy who's got a little bit more confidence, a little bit better of a head on his shoulders. He feels better about himself, his ability to contribute to a team. So who knows what Bart's future looks like, but that's what happened this week for his career. Talking about things that happened, Josh Jung, unfortunately, was given the news that he would be out 8 to 10 weeks. As you very well know, that can vary. It can maybe sometimes be a little shorter. Sometimes, worst case scenario, goes even longer than the estimated window. But just a brutal blow for the Rangers, man. I mean, he was small sample size, but to start the year, he was hitting .412 with 2 bombs, 6 ribbies, on base percentage of .474, slugging .941, and had an OPS of 1415, and an OPS plus of .306. So again, small sample size, but I feel like a year in which many of us, Rangers fans especially, but I think baseball fans in general, who are more familiar with this increasingly household name in Josh Jung, especially after the World Series last year, I think we thought that this would be a huge year for him. And granted, he's not missing like the whole year. Like, we'll see more of him this year, assuming everything goes right and this doesn't turn into some weird, like, just kidding, he's actually out for the next year and a half. It's way worse than we thought. Assuming we don't get something crazy like that. Assuming we're not dealing with the New York Yankees and their front office and their training staff who lie more than anyone, we're going to see more of Josh Jung. But for a team that's looking to bounce back from World Series hangover, not rumors, but labeling, because it's easy to look at a team like that and go, you're coming off a title run. What are you going to do? And to have a guy that's hitting as well as he was to be able to, or to have him miss time 2 to 3 months, that's a tough blow. But from what I can tell from Rangers fans, I think they're excited might be going a little too far, content with Ezekiel Duran. I even saw some Rangers fans talking about they almost forgot that Seager had a stint on the IL, I think last year, because of how well he played. Like, it wasn't at the forefront of their minds because it wasn't such a glaring hole when he filled in. So that's, I guess, worse. Like, all things considered, that's a good piece to have, to be able to move him around where you need him to, and he's going to give you sufficient performance. So again, tough blow for Josh Jung. I don't even know if I mentioned the reason if you haven't heard yet, but he fractured his right wrist Monday night against the Rays by Phil Maton, by the way. I think that was like did I read his third straight hit batsman? That's tough. Was it 3 straight? Yeah, the 2 batters before Jung had been hit by pitches. Yeah, not a good place to be if you're Phil. But again, you hate to see it for Rangers fans and just for baseball, because again, I feel like Josh Jung has potential to be one of these, up and coming young stars, pun intended, that can make himself a household name for a team that I think is going to be around in the mix for a while. So we'll see how they deal in the meantime, but it sounds like Duran can hold it down for in the meantime. So enough on that. Before we get to closing the book, I got a handful of items in there that may take a little longer than they usually do. I just didn't know if they warranted full segment topics. But before we get into that, weekend series to watch, I don't know what year it is, but I never thought I'd be writing this down this early in the season. But with the way both of these clubs have been playing over the last, well, for the Orioles, I'll say like last year, but for the Pirates, I'll say the last week, because as you know, Pirates slipped. They kind of trended downwards at the end of, or probably like the second half, I guess you'd say. But the Orioles at the Pirates, this is the weekend series that I'm going to be watching. If you're unfamiliar with our podcast, if you're new, maybe if you jumped on in the off season, this is something that Nate and I like to do on the second episode of the week, as we look ahead to the weekend. Like, what do we got coming up? Weekend series to watch. Usually we each bring one to the table, but with Nate, again, having some scheduling conflicts, only bringing one to you tonight, but just want to give you a little taste of what's to come. But the Orioles at the Pirates is my series to watch. I've been watching a lot of O's games as of late. You can thank Ryan Ripken for that, friend of the pod, recurring guest of on the 3-0 take. Again, Orioles of Pirates, game 1, we've got Grayson Rodriguez versus Jared Jones. I'm excited to watch that pitching matchup. Assuming I'm not getting my names mixed up here, I think I've heard good things about Jared Jones for the Pirates, right? Are we hearing good things about Jared Jones, baseball fans? 4:12 p.m. Eastern, game 1. That is Friday. I think, yeah, no game Thursday between these two teams. So I don't know. Yeah. Series starts Friday. game 1. Game 2, you got Tyler Wells versus Bailey Falter, 4:05 p.m. Eastern. And game 3, you've got Dean Kramer versus Marco Gonzalez, 1:35 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, been watching a lot of O's games, but depending upon how this series goes, not that it hinges solely on this series, but if the Pirates can make some noise this series, I may be watching more Pirates games in addition to O's games, because I genuinely think this year is gonna warrant a little bit more attention given to the Pirates deeper into the season than maybe last year, because as we mentioned, second half not so great for the Pirates. They started off real strong. I think it was 20-8 start the year. But I think, and we talked about it during the offseason, and I mentioned it in our Hot Takes and Predictions episode, and I'll say again, if you haven't listened to that episode, it's still not too late. We're like a week into the season, but you still have plenty of time to get caught up, to get familiar with where me, Nate, and Ryan's heads are at going into the 2024 season, who we think is going to be hot, who we think is not, and some other predictions we had in there sprinkled in. So go listen to that. But as I was saying, we mentioned in that episode and all off season that the Pirates, they're knocking on the door. They're knocking on the door, and I just really hope that they can do something special this year, or at the very least push the Cinderella story a little further along than they did last year, because if you recall, that was a fun team to watch, regardless how you feel about the Pirates or if you care about them at all. That was a fun story. Like they had some exciting call-ups. They had some late inning heroics, I believe, if I remember correctly. So I just hope they push that feel-good story a little deeper into the season. And maybe it blossoms into something more than a feel-good story. Maybe this turns into a run at a wild card seed. Who knows? Heck, I think actually, no, I was going to say, I think one of us maybe even had the Pirates winning the division. I don't think any of us went that far, but anything can happen with this ball club. So time will tell. Closing the book here, I'll just run through them real quick. The Oakland A's, as we touched on earlier, they got all sorts of issues. Them and the Royals actually are having issues with the ballpark. The A's are looking for a place to play next year, and apparently Sacramento is the favorite in the clubhouse to be the landing spot, or the temporary home, if you will, for the 2025 and 2026 seasons, because I think the Vegas, if that pans out the way that they're saying, that should be 2027. So they're looking for a place to play in the meantime, and it sounds like Sacramento is momentum is shifting that way. But the Royals, apparently, there was a vote in which the voters in Jackson County, Missouri, rejected, which I believe is where Kansas City is, rejected to approve a tax that would have helped the Royals and the Chiefs remain in the county to help fund stadium improvements for the Chiefs and a relocation for the Royals, because as we've touched on in episodes past, and as you've probably heard, they're looking to move downtown to get out of Kaufman, to relocate. And from what I think that I read, I think they're trying to do it up like the Braves kind of do, with a little bit of a little hot spot around the ballpark, restaurants and the like, sort of like like they do at the Battery down there in Atlanta. I think that's what they were trying to do. I know that's kind of the movement now with these ballparks. That's where things are shifting. But it kind of threw a wrench. I think the team, I won't speak for these franchises, but I think they were kind of banking on there being a little bit more support for this. So it's thrown a wrench into their plans, I guess. And the Royals put out a tweet that said, "We respect the voters of Jackson County and the results of the election today. We will take some time to reflect on and process the outcome and find a path forward that works for the Royals and our fans." And that was from John Sherman, who is the team's CEO, the chairman and CEO. So I don't know what this means from a legal standpoint, from a relocation standpoint. I mean, the Chiefs is one thing, but keeping it baseball specific here, I don't know if this means that the Royals are going to, if they're going to come back with a better proposal, if they're going to threaten to move, because that seems to be a trend these days where, if things don't go the way you like, let's just move cities or build a new ballpark and we'll pay for it ourselves and screw the city. I don't know. I don't know what this means for the Royals, but I think the Royals have a solid fan base. I'm not going to say they're the best. I think they have a solid fan base, and I genuinely think they want what's best for the team, and I hope that it works out that way. Whether that means them staying in Kaufman, whether that means them moving downtown. Royals fans, let's have a dialogue here. Let's talk. Tell me what's best for the team. Because I'm so, oh man, I said it, not to spoil a hot take or a prediction from the episode, but I said that the Royals are sneaking into a wild card spot. They're not. You want to talk about the Pirates knocking on the door? The Royals, I believe, are knocking on the door. Bobby Witt is quickly becoming one of my favorite players in baseball. I think the juice is there. The pieces to the puzzle are there. You just got to figure it out. And I think a lot of this will be a lot of the momentum, if you will, that could potentially exist will be greatly impacted by what happens with the ballpark, because that's a big part of a franchise is where they're playing, who has immediate access to where they're playing, and that is influenced by whether or not they're willing to support a team that does or doesn't do what they ask or vote on. So a lot at play there. We'll see how it pans out. The Mets sign Julio Teheran. Just briefly here, their rotation's hurting. They've got Kodai Senga on the IL. I know Severino is not starting out the way this year. I think he's only had one start, but not exactly what they were hoping for from him. So maybe a little bit of insurance there. They signed Teheran to a 1-year, $2.5 million deal. And maybe, they're just taking a flyer on him just to see how things go. Maybe provide a little bit of depth for that rotation just to keep the ship afloat. Jacob in the chat and on Facebook Live, which if you don't check out the lives, be sure to check us out on Facebook Live. And I think we're live on Twitter/X. He said, is Julio Teheran the best I could do? That's a good question, Jacob. I can't say for certain. I know there's probably some other free agents out there that are maybe borderline like close to retiring if they don't get a call soon. Maybe they could have been better fits, but it's possible that the communications with Teheran and his camp just went a little more seamlessly, and they said, we need help, we need it now, and maybe you can be the guy that provides that. So who really knows? The Cardinals and Mariners jerseys issue. I need to touch on this real quick. So I don't know why this isn't being talked about more, but if you haven't heard, reports are saying that the Cardinals, if you're familiar with their uniform setup, they're not getting those blue uniforms, the powder blue uniforms, or they call them the victory blue uniforms. They're not getting those until likely June. And the Mariners are still waiting. I don't even know if there's an ETA for these, but they're still waiting on their cream jerseys. If you're familiar with that, with those alternates, I posted on Instagram if you want to see it and tweeted about it. They're waiting for those to arrive, and it's because Fanatics, you know them, you hate them. Fanatics cannot ship them until they get in stock, because it's what I read is a growing pain of the transition process. Look, if this was part of the plan to bring Fanatics on as the manufacturer of these uniforms, I don't know, maybe however many billions Major League Baseball is worth, maybe they could have used some of that to ensure that something like this wouldn't have happened. Just a thought. Like, I don't know, as a professional organization, how Major League Baseball teams and their players don't have uniforms that are part of their collection. Like, this isn't like a one-off City Connect thing. This is predetermined. Like, we've known this. They've been wearing these blue uniforms for years now. So it shouldn't have surprised anybody. Like, oh yeah, the Cardinals are going to need these uniforms by opening day. And I hear it's the supply chain issue and all that. But come on. Is there not a plan B to this? Are we asking for too much that Major League franchises have their proper uniforms in order and available and ready to go at the start of the season? I don't know. I didn't think that was asking for too much, but here we are. How this isn't the final straw for Major League Baseball in this Fanatics relationship, I don't know. Like, there must be some, I don't know, black magic underground business going on. I don't know what it is, but this relationship should have been severed months ago. If Major League Baseball cared about its product and the legacy, the how 100 plus years of baseball, the history and the tradition and all of that, if you even respected or cared for that image at all, you wouldn't be putting up with this. We've documented the issues. We've talked about it on previous episodes. I put it on social media, various pictures and reports and all of that, talking about just how much of a mess Fanatics is right now. Why? First of all, why isn't Rob Manfred come out and address this? Why do these issues continue to arise? Like, at some point, if you're Major League Baseball, I don't care how much money is involved, you need to bring Fanatics and Nike or whoever, all of them, to the table and say, look, if this isn't fixed, we're moving on. The contract is void. I don't care what language is in there. You had one job, and it was to provide uniforms for our players. And you're either not providing the teams the uniforms as we just talked about, or you are, and they're not the same color, or they're like wet napkins when guys are sweating. Like, they were soaked. We talked about it last episode, I think. The Yankees Astro series. It was like 70 degrees, and they looked like wet napkins. These uniforms are garbage. Fanatics is trash. Their products are awful. How this relationship wasn't severed months ago is beyond me. I don't know. But I'll be done. I'm done with that. Moving on to the final point here. Just want to give props to Nolan Schanuel. You probably heard about his call-up story last year. Had a handful of games up with the big leagues. Had a cup of coffee, but he's still with the ball club, still playing. And not only is he playing with the club, he is getting on base for the club. He's played 35 big league games. He's gotten on base in every single one of them. And if you're curious, that is the third longest on base streak to start a career since 1900. So tip of the cap to you, my friend. Keep it rolling. You love to see a story like that, man. We go back to what I talked about at the beginning. Opportunities given to a guy, takes full advantage of it. And a situation like that, you're giving them every reason to keep you in the lineup. Even if you're not hitting, you're getting on base, you're providing your team opportunities to score runs and win ball games. And that's from a young guy like that, it's really all you can ask for. So again, tip of the cap to you, Nolan. Love to see that progress, and I'm curious to see how long this streak can go. So we're an hour deep, squeezed a lot of content in there. Hopefully got to everything that you were hoping I'd get to. I apologize if we didn't. It's a little tougher when I'm riding solo. I gotta make sure I cover all my bases, and a lot of times when Nate's on here, we can recall things or include things that maybe slip through the cracks by the time we get to the end of the episode. But hopefully I got to everything you were hoping for. But look, there's a lot more baseball to be played, and we're going to be bringing you a lot more content, a lot more, many more episodes, more live streams, more videos, more whatever. We're going to be bringing it to you. So we appreciate you as always. Following us and listening to us and keeping up with what we're doing here at the 3-0 Take. I will ask right before we leave here, again, if you will subscribe to the YouTube, would greatly appreciate it. We're trying to reach 2K by the end of the year, by the end of the calendar year. So you've got time, but let's not wait that long. Let's just fly past 2000 this year, huh? How about it? It's going to be a big year for the 3-0 Take. I feel it. I can already see certain pieces to the puzzle fitting into place. It's going to be a big year for us. I know I'm excited. I know Nate's excited. I know Ryan's going to be excited, which is another thing. We're going to be, Nate and myself. I made a solo appearance the other day because, again, Nate's busy with getting married and everything, all these exciting things going on. But made a solo appearance on the Ryan Ripken show, so wanted to plug that. Nate and I are going to be hopping on Ryan's show a lot this year, hopefully, if everything goes well, and as will he be making appearances on the 3-0 Take. So go follow the Ryan Ripken show, hit him up on social media, and follow the show, and you will hopefully get the updates when we're on there, and you'll be able to catch us talking some more balls. So I think that's everything. I know I talked a lot. Again, when I run these solo pods, I especially appreciate when you guys make it to the end. I know I'm sitting here essentially talking to myself in this little home studio here, but appreciate you guys following along. And I think that's everything. So with that said, my friends, I love you, the listeners, the followers. I love all of y'all. And as always, looking forward to talking more baseball with you guys soon. Until next time, stay filthy.